So, I have schizophrenia. I feel like I should just get that out there and get ahead of it. Yes, I hear voices, and yes, I have trouble distinguishing between reality and unreality sometimes. I see things in a different way than most people, and my brain works a little differently from the way your brain probably does. So, when I say I've been doing some reading about our friend Socrates, and I found some things that give me mental illness vibes, I'm not talking out of my ass. I'm saying I can relate to the things he's saying. Today, let's dive right into exploring a very misunderstood aspect of Socrates' life, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll come around to my headcanon a bit. Socrates was a complicated individual. Much like my mother, whose memories I was made to inherit, Socrates probably spent much of his adult life homeless, barefoot, and arguing with strangers in the public square. I say probably because he never actually wrote anything. All we know of his ideas comes from others writing about him, recording down his conversations. He spent some of his life as a soldier before eventually taking on the role of full-time thinker. He was seemingly unable to hold a normal job, and likely survived off of the patronage of his rich friends who were fascinated by his unique way of thinking. We don't often think about it, and it sort of ruins the mystique, but many early philosophers were rich, powerful people. Plato came from Greece's most wealthy and powerful class, for example, and Aristotle's father was literally a royal doctor, the personal physician to the king of Macedon. Socrates, though, came from humble beginnings. His father, probably a sculptor or stonemason, noticed something was different about the boy at a young age. In Socrates' own words, as recorded by Plato, "The favor of the gods has given me a marvelous gift which has never left me since my childhood. It is a voice which, when it makes itself heard, deters me from what I am about to do and never urges me on." Yes, Socrates had a friend, a good friend, who others couldn't hear, a kind of spiritual entity that weighed in on his every action. The being, which he never gave a specific name, was generally kind and supportive, but could also at times reduce him to anxiety and non-functioning. This is the story of Socrates' mysterious invisible companion, or as he called it, his demon. Socrates was not shy about his relationship with his demon, in Greek daemon or daimonon. He would often tell friends, peers, and even crowds about his conversations with it. Contemporaries at the time thought it was one of his most unique qualities, though they disagreed on how to feel about it. Plato, for instance, believed that Socrates' demon was, in fact, a spiritual entity that had attached itself to him. But others, like Aurelius, thought Socrates was describing something metaphorical, like an inner voice or a conscience. I wager that it is entirely possible that none of them were quite right, and that Socrates lacked the words to explain what was happening to him, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. The demon's exact role in Socrates' life is a little unclear, much like all of his ideas. Remember how we talked about he never wrote anything down? Yeah, all of what we know about him is through others. According to Plato, the demon only persuaded Socrates away from doing things, never told him exactly what to do. In Xenophon's writings, though, the demon apparently told Socrates what to do as well as what not to do. It would tell him what to say sometimes, as well as instruct on how to give advice to others. In both interpretations, though, it's clear that a major responsibility of the demon was to help Socrates avoid danger, or avoid making the wrong decision. The perception that the demon was guiding him away from danger could lead to negative consequences, however. In the book Euthyphron, we hear of a time when the demon was so demanding of him that he was unable to leave a changing room for a long time out of fear that something bad would happen. In another book, Phaedrus, we read a scene in which Socrates attempted to set out for a walk, but his demon wouldn't let him do it. The demon demanded he apologize for speaking ill of one of the gods, and refused to let him leave the house until he did so. The demon did, according to Socrates, have a divine nature. It was connected in some way to the gods, though also separate. He was a very spiritual man, believing wholeheartedly in the Oracle of Delphi, a religious figure who was believed to be able to speak to the god Apollo. In a famous scene in Plato's book Apology, the oracle gives a prophecy of sorts to Socrates, proclaiming that he is the wisest man in the world, which apparently deeply encouraged Socrates and convinced him to engage in even more philosophical debate and pursue philosophy full-time. But is it possible that the people around him were enabling his mental illness? The demon, surprisingly enough, was a huge part of what eventually led to his death. Towards the end of his life, Socrates was accused of corrupting people with his ideas and of impiety, or lack of respect to the gods, for which he was to be executed. It's possible that this charge was related to his well-known relationship with the demon, but more than that, he may not have been executed at all, if not for the demon. Let me explain. Once Socrates' death sentence had become imminent, Socrates had many ways out and chances to escape. His aforementioned rich friends offered him an underground route out of Athens, where he could flee law enforcement, and he had many powerful people on his side willing to help him navigate the legal situation. However, he refused help. And guess why? Yeah, it was the demon. Known for always helping to avoid danger and get Socrates out of trouble, the demon was unexpectedly and surprisingly silent throughout the trial. His own words, as recorded by Plato. "O my judges, for you I may truly call judges, I should like to tell you of a wonderful circumstance. Hitherto, the divine faculty of which the internal oracle is the source, has constantly been in the habit of opposing me even about trifles, if I was going to make a slip or error in any matter. And now, as you see, there has come upon me that which may be thought and is generally believed to be the last and worst evil. But the oracle made no sign of opposition, either when I was leaving my house in the morning, or when I was on my way to the court, or while I was speaking at anything which I was going to say. And yet, I have often been stopped in the middle of a speech. But now, in nothing I either said or did touching the matter in hand, has the oracle opposed me. What do I take to be the explanation of this silence? I will tell you. It is an intimation that what has happened to me is a good, and that those of us who think that death is an evil are in error. For the customary sign would surely have opposed me, had I been going to evil, and not to good. Because the demon did not warn him of any danger, Socrates believed that going to his death was the correct decision, and that he need not be afraid of it. He refused help. He refused to escape, and he accepted his fate, just as the demon instructed. So what was the demon? Do you side with Xenophon and believe it was some kind of metaphor for an internal voice or conscience? Are you a Plato head and believe that some kind of angel was guiding Socrates? Or are you with me on this one, and you believe that Socrates had a persistent, hallucinatory personality in his head, a manifestation of his anxieties and fears? The passage of time has, as it always does, blurred the lines between fact and speculation. We may never know the true nature of Socrates' demon, but it does make me wonder. There are so many things in this world that lie just beyond our understanding. Maybe someday we'll get a little closer. And maybe someday, you'll hear a demon of your own.